doing if you're not a fish, Harry? I want 4 kingfish. I want 4 kingfish. Where's my kingfish? I love my 17 kingfish. I love my 17 kingfish. 1 minute, Marco. Got 2.
This game is fun. Throughout Toho's lifetime, there have been a few games that have stood the test of time and became forever cemented as a cornerstone of Toho's legacy. Games such as Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, Imperishable Night, Perfect Cherry Blossom, Iso Tensoku, Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom are all games that are both massive success and brought in a new wave of interest from new fans and returning fans alike. However, there have also been fan games that have attributed to the growth of Toho as well, and a select few have grown big enough to have a dedicated following of their own. Games such as Toho Puppet Dance Performance, Luna Nights, Tohovania, and Toho Fantastic Danmaku Festival have all achieved an incredible feat of adapting Toho in a unique style of their own, and have managed to stand on its own feet as an individual game that will be remembered among the fans of the series. These are all games that I truly believe are some of the greats in Toho's legacy. But today, I want to bring your attention to one particular game that I think is deserving of its title as one of the greats in the history of Toho fan games. Not only due to the sheer polish and care that went into the game, but also because of the interesting choice of protagonists used for the game. One that I've never seen in both Toho fan games and Toho official games. That game is Mystia'S Izakaya. Among the Toho fan games, there have been very few fan games that deviate from the main cast of playable characters from the original series, Reimu and Marisa. A few games may include 1 or 2 more playable characters like Sakuya and Yomu, and if we go further down that list, perhaps we may get 4 or 5 more characters like Cherno, Raisin, Sanae, and Remilia. Outside of these few characters though, there are rarely any fan games that give any of the other characters a chance as the main protagonist, so it always intrigues me whenever I find a fan game that specifically focuses on a character who is not one of the main playable characters, such as Suwako-chan Cubic, Ace Attorney Aya, and Shoot Shoot Nitori. Also, I wouldn't have found out about Shoot Shoot Nitori if it wasn't for Suwawako, so go check out his video. Mystia'S Izakaya, like the fan games mentioned above, is a game that focuses not on any of the main playable characters but rather a small sparrow yokai named Mystia. Now at this point you may be asking yourself, what is Mystia'S Izakaya? Put it simply, Mystia'S Izakaya is a cooking game with the added twist of having a resource management system and being able to talk to different characters around you. It sounds simple enough, but there's really a lot more to it. The story of Mystia'S Izakaya follows us, Mystia, as we wake up one day to find our friend Kyoko being threatened by a certain cat due to some unpaid loans. So like the good friend that we are, we offer to help pay back her loans for her. However, something that we forgot to take into account is that we ourselves don't have any money. So, we open up an izakaya to get the money we need in order to keep our kneecaps intact. Yes, that's actually in the game. There's also this whole thing about us saving the world and some ghost woman destroying our restaurant, but that's besides the point.
What? That's it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
The game itself isn't anything new. Like I said earlier, it's essentially a cooking game mixed with a resource management system with interactable characters. However, what makes this game stand out to me is the presentation of these ideas. It takes these simple concepts and gives them depth and puts its own spin on it. The game is split into 2 sections, the day portion and the night portion. The day portion of the game is where the resource management system comes into play. Each day you're given a limited amount of time to do some prep before the eventual night phase of the game. During this time, you can collect ingredients to cook from your surrounding area or buy them from the vendor. Collecting ingredients takes away some time, but it does save you the need of spending money. While buying from the vendor doesn't take away any time and gives you more ingredients than collecting, it does usually take away a huge chunk of money. The further you get into the game, the more vendors you'll be able to buy from. But it does mean that you are more susceptible to overspending your money, so you have to manage how much you spend each day. I find this balance between collecting ingredients and buying them to be fairly well thought out, because it does mean that you have to be more careful to not overspend like I do, oh hey, Onisake. And it encourages players to remember where certain gathering spots are since some ingredients aren't sold. In the Yokai Trail, there is an item called Udum Bara, which is not sold in any of the stores. To get it, you have to wait until around the evening for it to spawn, go to the Hakure Shrine, find this secret road, and then get it. As far as I know, this is the only way to get it from the base game. Each vendor and location offers unique items, so it never feels like a waste of time to go to a different area, even if it's relatively far. Apart from the collection system, there's also the ability to talk to Toho characters around you. This isn't just for dialogue, by the way, there's an actual benefit to going out of your way to talk to some characters. First, simply interacting with the characters will level up your friendship with them. This is important because leveling up your friendship is the main way of getting new recipes in this game. Your friendship level goes from 1 to 5, and each time you max out a friendship level, you will get a new recipe. But wait, there's more. Each time you increase your friendship level, you unlock more options to what you can do with each character. When you start off at level 1, your only option is to chat with them, which doesn't really do much. But then you get to level 2 and you have the ability to invite them to your izakaya. On level 3, you can ask for ingredients from them, and then on level 4, it gives you the ability to ask for drinks. And finally, level 5 differs from person to person, so I'll let you try them out yourself. Even if you aren't interested in min-maxing each character, I'd still recommend you to at least hit level 2, as it makes it much easier to invite them to your izakaya for more money. And if you ever change your mind about leveling up their friendship in the future. With so many places to visit, ingredients to collect, people to talk to, and drinks and food to buy, how do you manage your time so that you can do everything? To be honest, that's up to you. There's no one true way to play this game, and everyone has a style of their own that fits how they like to play the game. And I think me telling you how to play this game takes away from the experience of it. So try it out yourself and see how you would approach it. Plus, this game is really easy. Even with the depth you have to hit, I rarely found myself actually working towards the depth or doing any sort of strat to make sure I had enough money to pay it off. A really good example of this is the 15k depth. Even with the huge depth limit set, I didn't really change my playstyle and I still managed to make more than half of that amount with ease. That's the great thing about this game. Everything you do contributes to you improving somehow. What do I mean by this? Let's say I want to increase the friendship of Suika. She lives in the Hakure Shrine, so while I'm there, I might as well buy some stuff. And since Reimu and Tenchi is nearby, I'll increase their friendship as well, and do their quests since they're already in the area. And without even knowing it, I'm actively increasing everyone's friendship while collecting ingredients. On this run, I'm just walking around collecting stuff and wasting money, and by the end of the day, I still managed to do something worthwhile, which is collect ingredients from a bunch of different areas. There is almost nothing you can do that can ruin your run. Well, except skipping the day, I guess. But honestly, if you do that, you're probably really far into the game already. So, you got your ingredients, touched grass, and destroyed the chain of supply and demand. So what now? Now, we cook. No, not that cook. This cook.
This, without question, is the greatest dessert I've ever eaten in MasterChef.
Each day you're given a choice of where you want to cook and how difficult you want it to be. The more difficult it is, the more orders you have to keep up with. But obviously, with more customers means more profit, so adjust according to what you can handle and be prepared above all else, because I'm not gonna lie, some of these difficulty spikes halfway through the night did catch me off guard the first time around. Another thing you have to keep in mind is throughout the night the game can spawn certain Toho characters as guests. The game refers to them as rare guests. Rare guests are usually restricted to certain areas of the map, so other than a few exceptions, you sometimes have to cook at certain areas if you want them to come to your izakaya. A good way to know if a rare guest will come to your izakaya is by looking at the book. It will usually show you what guests you have unlocked and where they will be at. It will also show you the budget for each guest, which is very important because it means you can serve them more expensive dishes. An early game example of this would be Marisa, who has a budget between 3,000 to 5,000. Unlike Rigolo or Rumia, who have a smaller budget, it's not really worth it to throw your most expensive item at them because they can only order so much and the payoff isn't as high. Where Marisa can order so much more, and it's actually worth throwing your most expensive items at her, like Dasai, Onisake, and Daimyo feasts. Rare guests can also provide spell card rewards and spell card punishments. Spell cards is what happens when you serve a guest a really good meal or a really bad meal, and depending on who the guest is, the rewards could be really mediocre, like giving you some extra ingredients, to straight up making your guests just leave. But apart from rewarding you, rare guests can also throw in a gimmick or two to help you throughout the night. like Kason making guests tip 30% more, or Reimu making sure that your next bad dish won't break your combo. If you get big brain enough with it, you can even abuse the system. Like how Alice has the ability to fill in every seat that isn't already filled when she activates a spell card. However, you will rarely find this useful as most of the time the seats will already be full. Unless there's nobody in the restaurant. I found out that if you just let Alice sit there throughout the entire night and wait until the shop is closed so no more guests will come, then you can force more guests to appear through the spell card reward, and since you serve her low-priced meals, you'll be more likely to stay and order more. Which is how I managed to get 16k in a single night. This is just one of the many ways to exploit the spell card system. Kipni on YouTube managed to get 288k in a single night, and this guy on BiliBili managed to get more than 900k. So do try and learn what each person's spell card does and try to maximize their effects, because they could literally be the make it or break it of your playthrough. Partners play a key role in your time playing Mystia'S Izakaya. They help take your mind off normal guests so you can focus on activating spell cards for rare guests. You can have up to 3 partners, each having a specific role in your izakaya. One will serve drinks, one will cook, and one will serve the food. At the early game, you will only have Kyoko, but as you progress further into the game, you will not only unlock more partners, but also unlock some that have special abilities. Saka has the ability to teleport, allowing her to deliver food instantly. Raisin increases guest tips by 20%, and Yomo can instantly finish any dish that requires the cutting board. Partners also have their own stats, so even those who don't have a special ability can be useful if you know how to use them. You can also get partners from the DLC, which are in a league of their own, so go ahead and give them a shot if you do decide to buy the DLC. Now for the most important part of the cooking game, the meals. Each night you can only prepare a limited number of meals, and that number goes up the further you get into the game. But what doesn't go up the further you get into the game are your cooking stations. Like any restaurant, you can only cook if there are cooking stations prepared for you to cook at, and the harder the level you choose, the more cooking stations you can have. This kind of limitation is really interesting to me, because while technically speaking, you can still cook as many dishes as you want. By limiting the cooking stations you have rather than the number of dishes you can prepare, you can only cook so many different types of dishes using that specific cooking station, and sometimes you need other cooking stations to either complete special guest objectives or achieve spell card effects, forcing you to play on the hardest difficulty. Thankfully, that's what the ingredients you collect are for. The ingredients all have a tag that can be added to any cuisine, giving them that particular tag, and rarer ingredients can have several tags tied to them. By mixing and matching what ingredients you add to your dish, you don't necessarily have to prepare a specific dish in order to proc a spell card. Take Marisa for example, whose tags are Japanese, greasy, fungus, hot, and legendary. By adding the truffle, we can guarantee both the fungus and legendary tag, and by adding the butter, the greasy tag, and finally for Japanese and hot, a lot of early dishes gives you that tag, so don't sweat over it. And finally, the more you cook in this game, the more special effects you can achieve. Every time you cook, you have a chance to activate Spare Time, which is a rhythm game, which is also a separate game mode, but that's besides the point. Completing the minigame gives you one of the 3 special effects for a limited time. One makes customers' patience never drop for a while, one makes customers finish their meal instantly, and one lets you toss dishes to remind you that this game came from this game. And if you manage to proc all 3, you get the special hyper mode that resets the timer for all 3 skills and deactivates Sparrow Time. There's a lot more I could talk about, but the rest of the stuff that I want to talk about, the game tells you at the start, and I don't really want to bore your minds out any more than I have at least. So if I left out any details or you want to know more about this game before I wrap up, here's 2 other Toho tubers that made a video on this game, link in the description. Huh? Ifoko, what are you doing here? What? Oh. Okay, so very quickly, let's go over the DLCs. Say you enjoyed the base game a lot, and you want more Mystia'S Izakaya, and you see the DLC section, you're wondering if it's worth your money. Yes it is. Each DLC gives you more places to visit, more characters to interact with, more assistants to hire, and more ingredients. If you could only afford one of the DLCs, then go for the second DLC. Out of all the DLCs, I think this is the one where they really went all out. I'm not sure what it is about the underground atmosphere, but they really managed to capture it extremely well. Something that I didn't really felt when I entered the Divine Mausoleum in the third DLC. Also, there's a cooking competition, ingredients with rare tags, and a whole side story that I found really interesting. You can really see the best version of the devs here. Or, you know, you just want to see your favorite character in the hot spring. Also, as of recording this video, the devs are working on a 4th DLC, and I found what I believe to be the artist working on the game. I'll link that in the description as well, so if you see anything you like there, then maybe save and wait for the 4th DLC to come out in English. Also, don't be like me, this computer unlocks a bunch of new dishes, original characters. This in particular I like for reasons. Also, you can get the Genshin jelly, the Minecraft cube, and Mystia'S hat as a food because, why? So I feel like I do have to mention that not all of them have a spell card, but the ones that do have a spell card have ridiculously good effects. I'm not gonna say what, but hey, in case you're wondering. Toho fan games have been around for a long time, and many are made as a tribute or a love letter to the main developer, Zune. Mystia'S Izakaya is both a tribute and a love letter, calling back to the many Toho games from the past, like Mystia talking about Imperishable Night with Kind, or Suika talking about Immaterial and Missing Power, while also referencing fan works like Koshi's Heart-Throbbing Adventures in the achievement No Fishing Rods Here, a small nod in every way possible, if you will, like how Rumia covers herself in a ball of darkness, or how Wriggle tried to start a bug news service. Something even me, someone who's been into Toho since 2016, completely forgot about. But even if you don't pick up on these little hints, it's an amazing game on its own. The game is lighthearted and doesn't take itself too seriously. Oftentimes you're going with the flow and having fun taking in the atmosphere of the game. And at least to me, that's what the devs were aiming for. You aren't here to jump through hoops or go through a stressful course just to be able to enjoy the game. You're here to relax, enjoy the music, talk to the characters, and just have a good time. And if that's what they were aiming for, then they sure did a heck of a good job. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm sorry this video took longer than I expected because I had to take care of a lot of things and honestly my mind was not in the right place. I actually prepared this video beforehand a whole month ago, but I wasn't happy with it so I decided to let it cook a while longer. If you're interested in watching it, I'll link it as an unlisted video in the description. But that's all from me. Next video is going to be an Arknights video, then a Honkai video, so look forward to it. I'll also try to do some YouTube shorts once a week so I don't go completely offline, like for 3 to 4 months. But until then, take care of yourself and of course, goodbye.